The question is about loneliness. I talked about it yesterday. What is loneliness? Where does loneliness come to us from? What is causing us to be lonely? What is causing loneliness is a very deep spiritual experience. We are lonely because we are the only real ones. The rest is experience around us. No amount of experience can substitute for reality. So we are basically lonely, all of us. We are lonely because there is nobody else except us. Not at the top, right here. We haven't changed. The self is still the same. The self is only one. The self is always lonely. Experiences have been generated to overcome that sense of loneliness. We are trying to run after people, run after experiences, buy things, go shopping to overcome that loneliness. Loneliness is part of the fact that we are actually alone. We are only one. That's the reality. We are trying to overcome a reality of our being. The reality of our being is there is only one. It's a given fact. Everything else is created around us. So long as we are in time and space, which is created by the mind, loneliness operates as separating us from the experience which is being created in mind by the mind in time and space. We create an experience, we create worlds around us. The causal world, the big cosmos of the causal world, the big cosmos of the astral world, big cosmos of the physical world. We create these big worlds around us, still are lonely. Because the worlds are experiences. They are not us. They cannot substitute us. They do not. We make images of ourselves. We create pseudo-human beings who look like us, talk like us, function like us, and are exactly like us. Still we are lonely. Because they are all images that we have set up. We are still lonely. This is a fact that we cannot substitute any amount of artifacts. And all our people around are artifacts made by our mind. All creation is made up by mind. And the justification for making the creation is not to be lonely. And yet we are lonely. Because they can't make the reality, which is only one. The reality is only one self. All others are made up. No amount how hard we try to make these clones look as real as ourselves, they never become ourselves. Some gap remains always between us and the clones we make, which we give different names, different shapes, different colors, different people. We make them all as real as ourselves. And yet, they do not substitute the self. We never find another self. There's only one self. We are lonely. Loneliness is a good reason for creation at the mind. What about, can there be loneliness above the mind? Supposing there's no time and space, where is the space to be lonely? Supposing there's nothing extending outside of the self, can there be loneliness? No, there can be something else. But you can't call it loneliness. Loneliness is the opposite of company. Loneliness is an opposite of something created around you. If nothing is created around you, no time and space exists, you can't call it loneliness, you have to call it something else. We have no word for that. We have no word. In fact, the word I have coined is very inadequate. May not be inappropriate, but inadequate. I call it totality of consciousness. Very inappropriate, actually, because it does not explain. How can it be total if there's nothing else to be total about? How am I using a language that's only fitting in pairs of opposites? How can I find any word in any language which you describe that to which there is no opposite? I don't know any language like that. Therefore, it's the very best I try to do to call it totality of consciousness, the ultimate creator, beyond time, space, timelessness, all these words we use. But they do not mean what we are really trying to mean. So it's not loneliness in that sense. Loneliness is created. The experience of loneliness is created when we create so many around us and still feel lonely. The experience of loneliness is different from loneliness. The loneliness per se would arise from there being only oneself. And the experience of loneliness comes when we have tried our utmost to create so many and we are still lonely. The truth is that no matter how many worlds we have created, no matter where we are sitting in this world today, we are still lonely. Everybody has loneliness in their heart. We try to meet people, try to match them, soulmates, people like-minded, people on the same path, people following the same pattern of life. We try to meet them. When we meet them, there's a gap left. They are not the same as ourselves. No two have been the same as ourselves. Therefore, loneliness is a part of life. It's part of living. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I am depicting a picture which looks to be very negative, that we are all suffering from loneliness. It's not so bad. Actually, it's very good. If we were not lonely, we would never be on the spiritual path. It's loneliness that really triggers us to find something beyond what we can see here, which does not take care of our loneliness. How does coming on a spiritual path take care of our loneliness? In a way that we can experience it, in a way that we can overcome what we have always experienced. Now that's the beauty of the spiritual path. That's the beauty of being initiated by a perfect living master. When you get initiated by a perfect living master, the master vests himself. He manifests himself inside you as a being with the same quality of existence as yourself. He's an extension of yourself. And when you have that experience of the master inside you, manifested as of the same quality as yourself, loneliness goes away. This experience of a master within yourself is not a one-time experience. It is stabilized at that as we move on the spiritual path to new discoveries, to new experiences of higher and higher levels of consciousness. The master within us continues to be in the same form as we, as the self. He continues to be a second self within us continuously till totality of consciousness, where we find he and the self are the same. That's a cure for loneliness. I do not know any other cure for subtle loneliness that exists in all of us.